If you're anything like me, you feel like you're always putting yourself in a box. For me personally, I consider myself a director. Some people call me a photographer. Some people call me a cinematographer. And I usually go with whatever hat fits the project, to be exact. Because who am I, right? Like, the art you make is put out to the world, and people are going to put you in boxes that sometimes you don't agree with, but that might just be the box that they just see you in, whether you see yourself in it. You don't have to take their advice, and you don't have to go towards that direction, but boxes are something that we are always in. And that brings me to what my dad used to say. Back in the day, people played the passenger until they was a driver, which means is you watched somebody that knew what they were doing, you studied it for some time, and then you became the driver. You became that thing, right? That thing that you always wanted to be. I feel like nowadays people are just slapping names on anything. And trust me, I was the same way. As soon as I picked up a camera, I wanted to consider myself a director. Now, I've been shooting cameras since I would say around 8 or 9, and I've been playing around with a lot of cameras my whole life. And I took a break from high school until like 2017, 2018, and I picked it back up again because I don't know, like it just came to me. But with that being said, I feel like everyone calls themselves a director as soon as they get a camera. I feel like everyone calls themselves a cinematographer as soon as they get the camera. And sometimes you want to be that thing so much that you kind of miss out on the learning experience of the craft, that whatever you're in 2025, I'm seeing a lot of people pick up a camera for about 2 weeks and they're saying they're a director. Now, I understand, everybody wants to be a director, and technically if you're coming up with the idea and you're shooting it, you're a director. And if you don't want to take my word for it, take James Cameron's word for it.
So long. A lot of people ask me, what's the best advice to someone who wants to be a director? And the answer I give is very simple. Be a director. Pick up a camera, shoot something, no matter how small, no matter how cheesy, no matter whether your friends and your sister star in it. Put your name on it as director. Now you're a director.
Now, I don't always agree with anybody 100%, and this is a time where I agree with James Cameron, but I also don't. And this is why. What James Cameron is saying is 100% true. Technically, if you're going to ask somebody what is it to be a director, go get a camera, no matter if it's an iPhone, whether you go get a camera that shoots 1080p and you shoot something and you put your name on it and you put director, technically you directed that particular video. You're a director. And I agree with that technically, but there's another side of it that I don't agree with. Is what do we call the people that have studied the craft for many years and worked on many projects that call themselves director? Now, obviously director is just a word to use to basically classify that person. If you're working on a project, who does what? We understand that. That's why I say technically he's right. But I do think there's a level of learning or just time that we need to spend with something before we consider ourselves a director. Now, let's take a step back and switch gears for a second. I can technically go to a store, buy a t-shirt for $5, take a marker, put I love you on it, and I can call myself a designer. In the technical world, yes, that's considered designer. I designed this piece. Maybe I designed this piece is better than I'm a designer, because what do you say to the people that have went to school for designing clothing and people that have worked their way up through Louis Vuitton, like somebody like Pharrell or Kanye West, or other people that have worked and put out products and interned for these things for so long and soaked up the game, actually put the work in? Now, I go back to what I was saying. Technically, you're a director. Technically, you're a designer. But where it comes into play, where it works out, is what also James Cameron was saying.
Everything after that, you're just negotiating your budget and your fee. So it's a state of mind is really the point. You never really get an opportunity. You take an opportunity. In the filmmaking business, no one ever gives you anything. Nobody ever taps you on the shoulder and say, I've really admired the way you talk and the way you draw. I think you'd make a good director. It doesn't happen that way. You have to constantly be pulling on somebody's sleeves saying, hey, I want to direct, and you have to be willing to make sacrifices to do that.
Now, that part of it is what I'm talking about. You can call yourself whatever in the world that we live in. Let's be honest. We all know people are calling themselves anything. To be considered a director amongst other directors, to be actually a director in filmmaking, to be considered a director amongst James Cameron, to, Stanley Kubrick. The list can go on. Anytime I'm saying names, I'm like forgetting names at the same time. But to be a director, you need to be acknowledged amongst directors. And you don't need to have the prestige as James Cameron or Stanley Kubrick or any of those guys like Spike Lee. But you do have to have a body of work that stretches some time. I just don't think you can go outside with a camera for the first time in your life, shoot a 1-minute video of a guy walking across the street and put director on it, and we're going to put you amongst directors. So obviously, I'm talking about more literally being a director in the industry versus just calling yourself a director. I think at one point I think it was like in the 80s or 90s when everybody was getting cameras. Everybody had those homemade movies that their parents would like record and things like that. So technically, yeah, a lot of people have directed films. Parents have directed their kids, back in the day when everybody was into the camcorders and VHS tapes and stuff like that. But in the arts, to be considered a director in the arts amongst people that actually love film, that actually work their tails off, that write, that act, that, help light cinematographies, like to be around that world, we need to put the time in a little bit longer before we just start slapping director on it. And another thing is, I don't think people truly understand the pressure that directors are, like, to be a director and you're waking up on day 2 of a shoot and you got over 150, 200 people looking at you like, what do we do today? It's like really scary. I've heard multiple directors say that.
It's an example of a terrifying day.
Yeah, there's like 3,000 people on the set. You got 9 cameras. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of people to feed. There's people complaining. Everybody has to be in the right place at the right time to get the shot. I mean, logistically speaking, you need a pretty good team of people around you to deal with that stuff, and you need a lot of energy. I remember before they had all these monitors so you could look at all the different cameras, I was on a 4-wheeler in a kilt with long hair, just like going around and looking at all the cameras and saying, that's a good shot. Can you like do this with the frame or put another lens on or whatever it happened to be? How many decisions do you get asked in an hour, right? When you're in the chair, how many decisions do you have to make? And I mean, like that. And you got to do it fast. Especially now, I mean, look, I think we've all been relegated to the area where we're sort of independent films. Am I right here? Mm-hmm. It's kind of independent filmmaking. This is a whole new cinematic landscape.
When you're a director and you're actually on the Hollywood level, it's a lot of pressure to be a director. And this is why I say you got to put those 10,000 hours in. And if you put the 10,000 hours in and you're still not like where James Cameron is, like that doesn't make you not, a director like James Cameron. You just haven't had the chance to display your art on that, stage, that huge stage with a huge budget. That does not take away from people that have 20 years of experience of making indie films or short films. I think that if you putting out 10,000 hours and putting out multiple music videos, multiple short films, and you got a book that stacks, then I would consider you just like James Cameron. You just don't have those 1, those 2, those 3 films that the world know you from. So I'm not trying to take anything from people that aren't like big directors. And just like me, like I haven't made that film that the whole world knows, I think it goes into just putting the time in it before we consider you anything, or you consider yourself. You should want to put the work in, because I remember when I first started, I would call myself a director. Then I sat back and I was like, well, how many short films do you got? How many music videos do you got? How many projects have you directed before we just slap director on it? It's not that many projects. So, actually put the time in it, put the work in it, fall in love with the craft, read, even if you're not shooting, there's other way to further your craft is reading and watching films and, actually learn this art form. Fall in love with the art form, and the art form will love you back. I truly believe that. But I was just thinking, I'm like, I agree with James Cameron, but I don't, because I think that talk can have some people think they're something that they're not. And just me personally, I have ran into people that claim to be these cinematographers, these directors, and they need a team around them to become that thing. And I believe that a director shouldn't need a cinematographer to get a film done. I believe that director should know something about cinematography. He should know something about sound. He should know something about gaffing. He should know something about blocking and staging. I don't think that a director should just solely be good if he's around a great cinematography, if he's around a great sound guy, a great, designer, like for set design. I think that a director should know these shoes at least good enough to be considered a great director or anything like that. And now we're switching it to like great director, like the conversation is changing. But I'm just saying, put the time in it. To be a director is to know each part of the team very well, so you can direct us in the right direction. That's why I love doing a lot of the stuff myself. I do know how to edit. I do know how to frame a shot up. I practice on lighting as best as I can. I practice on writing stories. I don't sit back and wait for somebody to give me a script. I'll write a story. I'll read books on how to write scripts and short films and things like that. Like, learn the craft. Then you'll know where you fit in what box. A lot of people are just putting themselves in boxes or just claiming to be this person, and then when you get around them, they need a lot of things. You can't be a cinematographer if you can't light a subject without your gaffers and all that. Oh well, I usually hire a gaffer. Like, no, like, it's me and you. I'm a director, you the cinematographer, or you're the director and I'm the cinematographer. Let's get it done. And I think what I'm trying to get across is, do you guys think that you should have to put in a good amount of time before you can consider yourself a director or writer or things like that? Or do you think, like with James Cameron, technically, just slap your name on a video, no matter if it was shit or good or whatever. It could be on an iPhone, or it could be your first film ever, and you're a director. You're amongst directors. Do you love the craft? If you love the craft, you know that you should be putting in way more work than you've done to be considered amongst directors. Now, I don't know if this is going to be be triggering for people, like in the comments saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Cool. I'm okay with that. I'm just saying, if you love the art form, put the time in. If that makes sense, let me know, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video. Make sure you drop a comment. Let me know how you feel, if this makes sense to you. And I guess I'll see you guys on another episode. We're back in the office. And yeah, I can't wait to put out more videos and to talk to you guys and to see how you guys feel. So yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell button, and I'll see you guys on the next video whenever that one is. Peace.